How you guys doing?
Good on.
Good holidays?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
How about you?
good. Yeah, it was, I did the bowl game and then had about 3 days at home and then came to Bozeman. So it was good though, it was good.
Start with that. Was that part hard, balancing two different things at once, the UW thing and the Montana State thing?
Yeah, you know, it was, I really enjoyed being around those guys kind of one last time. It was pretty easy. You know, I didn't have to do a lot of the administrative things. I wasn't worried about, you know, when they went and did their recruiting meetings or whatever, I could go and make calls and make sure these guys on staff were taken care of and communicate with the administration here and work on doing some recruiting for the Bobcats. I was fortunate enough to coach a group of guys that just really got it, loved each other, and, you know, played hard for each other, and it was fun to have a chance to have one more experience with them.
When you returned, you got announced here and then you go back and it's kind of in between, but what was their reaction? What was the UW players' reaction?
I think they were really happy for me, and I think they know that this is something that I wanted to do. And, you know, I think at first they kind of got over the initial shock and knew there was going to be change there, and that's always difficult. But, you know, we had some good conversations and enjoyed each other's company, and I think they were happy for me to get an opportunity to lead my own program. And it was an exciting time from that perspective.
What's the last day or two been like, just having the whole staff together?
Really exciting. I mean, the energy's kind of finally right. It's like, you know, I'd wake up at 2:30 in the morning and stare at the ceiling and wonder what I'm supposed to be doing here. I got 1,000 things to get done, and you really can't start to go until everybody gets in one spot. And so we've had some really good dialogues over the last 48 hours, and you know, we've got a lot of ground to cover in a short amount of time, but I think I got the right guys here to do it. You know, just a couple quick comments about this group. You know, I went around the room, I said, okay, I want you guys to tell me some stuff. And so in that room we have 143 years of combined coaching experience, 43 conference championships, 42 playoff appearances, 36 bowl games, 9 national championship appearances, and 2 coaches of the year. And I think that kind of speaks to the level of coaching that we were able to attract here at Montana State. And I mean, just the experience, the guys that have been doing this for 20 plus years like myself and Courtney and you know, all the way down to guys like Matt Miller, who's really just kind of cutting his teeth in this profession, but is a guy who's, you know, arguably one of the best receivers in Boise State history, and played at an extremely high level throughout his career, knows what it takes to be a winner and a champion. And so I just feel like we've got a group of guys that are going to teach really well, connect to our players, develop those lifelong relationships that is really what college football is about. And I'm excited. It's a good group. You can just tell. I mean, there's good humor, there's good banter. I think we're going to have really good chemistry within this group, and I'm excited about that. I think that's an underrated aspect of a coaching staff, because I think that really filters into the locker room when the players feel like these guys care about each other and like each other and respect each other. That filters into our locker room, and we can start to develop the type of unity that we need there to be a championship program.
Can you talk about Coach Greg Rack specifically and just how it all came together, getting him here, and what that means, maybe getting him from the other guys?
Yeah. You know, Ty is a guy, I can remember we were actually talking yesterday about, I remember the first time that I spent any significant time with him, my son and I went over during spring break from Coeur d'Alene to watch a spring practice when Robin Pflugrad was the coach there because of my relationship with Mick Delaney. And so we went over and kind of hung out and watched practice, and I just kind of I was coaching linebackers at the time, so I was watching him do his linebacker drills and kind of how he interacted with his players, and I just kind of made a mental note, you know, this guy's kind of got it, you know, he interacted in a real positive way with his players. You watch how they play on defense. You know, not every play is going to be perfect, but those guys play the right way, and I know, because I've done this long enough, they're playing for him. And that's what I want, is I want guys that are gonna play for their coaches, that are gonna buy into what they're asking them to do, that are gonna understand that the personal connection is more than about football. You know, every person I talk to about Ty, they say that. They say, you know, it wasn't just about the relationship that he developed between the white lines. It was truly a lifelong type of relationship that was gonna stay there. It was not about the University of Montana at all. It was about us doing what's best for Montana State. And if you can get a really good coach here, that's what my job is to do, is to put the best coaches I can here. And When Ty and I had an initial conversation, I knew it was going to probably be a tough thing for him because of the time that he spent there and the relationships that he's developed there, not just with the current players and former players, but also with the administrators and the community of Missoula. And but I think in his mind, he really understood that it was time for him to move on and take his career in a different direction. And this was an opportunity that I think we're going to benefit from, and I think he'll benefit from as well.
What was your main selling point to Ty?
It wasn't really a sales job. I mean, I think we're very similar guys. And it was just a conversation between two ball coaches, and like I told him, I said, we got a chance to put 2 sticks of dynamite in a hole that only really needs 1, so let's do it. And it was, we're similar guys. I mean, we think about the game the same way. I think we have the same values. I think we really feel like this needs to be a player-centered deal. What's best for the players, their experience, their time in college is short. We've got an opportunity to have a tremendous influence on these young men. And I want guys that understand what the expectations are, and it's easy if you have the same mindset. And so it was, I think it was really just 2 guys that think about football the same way. He's kind of looking at me like, yeah, that's exactly how I think about it. And he's telling me stuff, and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how I think about it. And so it wasn't, there wasn't much selling going on.
You said you had a list of 1,000 things. What's at the top?
Our players, recruit our guys that are here. We'll have a team meeting on the 12th, evening of the 12th, before they start class on the 13th. And, just really want to let them know who's going to be working with them, introduce them to the coaching staff that we've assembled, and, put together a very clear and concise set of expectations, lay out the off-season plan. There's a lot of those things, but it really starts with those guys. I mean, they need to know, we're about them and what we can do to help their experience here, make them feel comfortable, get acclimated to the new expectations, the new staff.
Once school starts, what are the rules like in terms of how much you can be in contact with the team?
We have a 20-hour rule during the season, but it's not going to be one of those things where we're going to be around that much because a lot of us are going to be on the road recruiting through the last week in January, and so we have a plan in place where we're going to keep some coaches in-house so that there's somebody here that they can connect with on a daily basis. And I think it's going to work really well. I think they're going to get the message that we're not just vacating the premises and you guys figure it out. We'll see when we get back and start doing morning workouts. They're going to know that they're important to us, and we want to kind of indoctrinate them into our culture.
Can you talk a little bit about Dakota's departure and maybe how that changes priorities now and in the coming weeks?
Yeah, I think it was a great opportunity for Dakota. You could probably see why the University of Oregon was interested in him if you watched the second half of that football game the other night. And so, good for him, man. I'm happy for him. It's a great opportunity for him. I think that, not just his play, but also the leadership that he brought in the locker room and how well he was respected by his teammates. I think that's a critical piece for us as we look towards filling that void, whether it's a young man that's in the program that steps up or whether it's a young man that's out there that can help fill that void in the short term. So quarterback's a priority. It's a priority in every recruiting class. It has to be. And so, that changes our recruiting in some respects because instead of taking 1, we're going to take 2. And because we've got to replace his spot, and then we need to take a high school freshman, incoming freshman, rather. And so that's a huge priority for us. And we've identified a number of student athletes, and we'll work through the recruiting process with them over the next several weeks.
Does it give you more flexibility in what you want to do offensively, not having an incumbent starter coming back?
I was going to do what I wanted to do anyway. So that's a short answer, I guess, but I don't think it really matters. I mean, I think Dakota would have been exceptional in our system that we put in here, and so he's a good football player and he can adjust and do other things.
Can you talk about that transfer rule that Dakota used and other players have used, and what it means maybe at this level of college football?
I think it's an interesting deal. I think Dakota's situation was maybe different. I kind of think, if a young man earns his degree at mid-year and is ready to go explore other things, and he's got the skill and ability and talent to do that, I think it's really hard to tell him they can't. I think there's other situations where people are fishing and maybe looking for a transfer who's not really ready to transfer. That's where things have got to be examined. you know, if they've got their degree and they're ready to go, and that's something that they're capable of doing, you know, I think you got to present that opportunity to that young man and let him take advantage of it. But I think that to me, the whole is when, you know, University X, Y, or Z starts going, well, this guy's a really good player. You know, he'll be done in May. Let's put the feelers out there and see if he's interested in this. And then I think that's where it creates some problems. And so, you know, I think that's something that'll have, there'll definitely be some conversations, I would assume, at the coaches' meetings, probably at the convention next week. And I don't know that there'll be any closure on it, but I do think that that's something that needs to be talked about.
As far as the offseason goes, Coach Wilcox remains on board, I assume.
Yep.
So what do you think of just kind of his rapport with the players? How important will that be in this transition?
Well, I think it's really important. I think it's one of the reasons why he was retained. You know, I had the opportunity to sit down with not every single kid on the roster, but a very significant portion of them. And that was one of the things I asked was some of the things that you really like about Montana State. And you know, a lot of the players mentioned that the job that Coach Wilcox and his staff does and how they take care of them. And, you know, I did my homework on him. I know some people that have worked with him in the past and had an opportunity to sit down with him and have some conversations and kind of let him know what my expectations were. And I felt like he was a good fit, and I think that he can continue to grow as a coach with a new staff, and I think he's excited about that. And we're going to spend all morning tomorrow talking about the off-season program.
Do you have any ideas in terms of what you want to implement for off-season training this upcoming off-season?
Well, I think, you know, I always try to look at it like this, like, okay, what did I not like as a player? And what did I not like as an assistant coach? Because those are two completely different things usually, right? They're, you know, the things you didn't like as a player was getting up early in the morning and going to do, well, you know, that's kind of toughness training, and so that's kind of important. But the thing that I implement a lot of competition, not making it just the mat drills and the circuit training, but thinking about how can we implement more actual football things within the rules that are going to still provide conditioning, and we can evaluate their change of direction and their functional mobility as a staff. And so I think it's going to be, I'm really interested to have this conversation with him tomorrow, because I kind of gave him this loose parameter to work with, and I'm interested to see what he's come up with, and then we'll sit down as a staff together and decide what are the things that we really feel like that we want to move forward with.